Welcome to Transformative Talks, where meaningful conversations meet holistic wellness. I'm your host, Chelsea Gilbert. As a massage therapist and wellness professional, I've seen firsthand how healing happens through connection, education, and self-discovery. We explore topics like nervous system regulation, mental health, body work, spirituality, personal growth, and more, all through a holistic lens. Whether you're beginning your healing journey or looking to deepen it, here you'll find inspiration, practical tools, and empowering conversations to support you on your journey. Make sure to subscribe and get ready to tune in to the conversation. Welcome back, listeners. I am so glad you're here because today I think we are all going to learn a lot of new stuff together. And I have Eir Atla here with me today. She is a medical astrologer, a medical intuitive, an herbalist, and all kinds of other things. So I'm super excited to talk about all of it. But first, I just want to say thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk about my absolute passion in life.
It sounds like it. Just reading all the stuff you did too. I'm very much into Western astrology, so I am excited to ask you some questions about all the different branches that you go into. So first off, typically I ask people a little bit about their story, how they got to where they are today. Why did you lean into so many different alternative modalities?
Well, that is a loaded question, but
Start from the beginning.
right, it was because of my own health problems. I was diagnosed at 19 with endometriosis, and by the time I was 22, they said it was pretty severe and I would never have children of my own, and I basically just had to suffer for the rest of my life. And I decided that wasn't an acceptable answer. I said, "No, my body can heal and it'll figure out a way to do it, but I need to find the modality that works for my body," right? Because there's different modalities out there and they don't all work the same for every person. So I went down the holistic rabbit hole and I did traditional Chinese medicine. I had a naturopath. I had just a regular herbalist that did mostly like Western herbs instead. I had a massage therapist who did like fertility massages. I had a chiropractor. I did all this stuff. And while a lot of it did help and it really put me forward in my healing, it wasn't really ever what my body really needed, I guess, because it wasn't fully, completely fixing itself. So I went out and got a degree in herbalism myself, and I was like, "Well, I'm just gonna figure it out for myself. Like, these people are great and they're wonderful, and they've been super helpful, but I'm the kind of person who really likes to do hands-on stuff." So it's like, "I'm gonna do the hands-on myself and see if I can figure it out." At that point, I'd been a nurse for a number of years, so I had the science background and the medical background. So I got my degree in herbalism. I started making all my own stuff for myself and then working with clients and realized that it still wasn't having the effect that I wanted them to, these remedies and stuff that I was making. So I just put out to the universe and I said, "Look, there has to be something else out there that'll make this work better, but I don't know what I'm looking for. So you have got to like show me something." And they did. Up popped medical astrology into my view. And I was like, "What is this? I've never heard of it. I know what astrology is. How is this different?" And instead of it being how the planets affect your life and your psychology, it was how they affect your physical body, your emotional body, your spiritual body. And I was like, this might actually be something that works. And so each plant is ruled by a planet, and based on what's going on in your chart and what planets are in debilitation, you would use certain herbs to remedy that debilitated planet. I opened up my chart and I put it in, and I was like, "Oh, this explains so much." As soon as I got it set up, I have 5 planets in Scorpio, and they're all in the 4th house, which is the house of the mother. The house is ruled by Cancer, that rules the uterus. And I was like, "Well, this explains why I have so much conflicting energy and why it's been hard to heal, because it's so many different things coming in that you can't just hit it with a one-size-fits-all kind of protocol." So the main 2 things that really stood out was that my Saturn was in debilitation because it was directly conjunct my Sun and my Pluto, and then my Sun was in debilitation because it was directly next to my Saturn. So when I looked into that, the Sun rules vitamins A, D, magnesium, and iodine, and Saturn rules vitamin C, vitamin K, and calcium and a few others. And I was like, well, with Saturn's suppressive energy, it's suppressing vitamins A and D. Vitamin A is absolutely vital for women's cycles to work properly, hormones to be formed how they should be, and to run in the natural cycles. And I was like, I wonder if my body needs more vitamin A than what I'm giving it. So I changed my diet. I started supplementing. I did a bunch of that. I added herbs that had vitamin A, and I added herbs that would remedy my debilitated Saturn. And within 3 years, I was pregnant. I had the baby they said I would never have. My endometriosis was basically, I'd say, in remission because I didn't have any symptoms anymore. And a few years after she was born, I went to see the doctor again, and they were like, "Are you sure you were diagnosed with endometriosis?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm 1,000% positive." And they were like, "You have no signs or symptoms in your body at all." And I was like, "I know, because my body healed itself." But they just looked at me like I was crazy. And yeah, so it set me down the path of, hey, this really works. And if I can heal my body, then I can help others heal theirs. And so I went down that rabbit hole and I got a couple more degrees to help me out and have been doing this ever since, basically helping women rebalance their hormones, heal their bodies, minds, and their souls so we can overthrow the patriarchy and take back what's rightfully ours.
So I was curious as you were talking about all that. So you started out as a nurse. Were you always inclined to learn about holistic things, or did you kind of have to shift your mindset a little bit?
Growing up in a very holistic household, my parents didn't take us to the doctor very frequently. We would see a herbalist instead, or a naturopath, or a chiropractor. So I definitely already kind of had that mindset. The only reason I went into nursing was it felt like a path that definitely had like a guaranteed income. And I didn't have to worry about trying to start my whole business from scratch as a very young individual. So I went into nursing for that. And when I first started in nursing, it was, as it was supposed to be, a very holistic modality. We learned about like healing hands, they called it, but it was literally like Reiki. It was teaching us how to do Reiki in nursing school and heal people using like energy. We learned about therapeutic touch, which was touching people in certain ways that would like move the energy in their body in a different manner to help with that. We learned about so many different holistic things and how to manage people's pain holistically and all this stuff. And it was great. And I loved it. And then I got into nursing. And within the first 5 years of nursing, that completely changed and it went downhill. And they didn't care to hear the holistic side of things anymore. And it started turning into more and more like I was just a legalized drug dealer. I was just pushing pills all day. And over the years, it got worse and worse and worse. I finally retired completely from nursing in 2023. And by the time I retired in nursing, there was no holistic anything being done in the hospitals anymore. They completely eschewed it. And if you brought it up, you were looked at like you were absolutely insane. You had lost your mind. You need to be committed to the psych unit. And it just really was very discouraging. So over the years, I just started building my practice more and more so that I could just leave nursing and this could be my full-time job. And that's what it's turned into. And I love it. But I feel like I'm actually helping people now. And I wasn't doing that in nursing anymore.
Yeah, I can understand that viewpoint. I know before I went into school for massage, I contemplated going the medical route, and I very much just have an aversion to having all that red tape and being kept in a box, because when you are aware that a person has so many different facets to them, it's difficult to kind of to stay in that lane of focus and not be able to say anything or suggest anything. So I totally get how that would become like a frustrating space for you to be in, especially if you were raised in a more holistic environment.
Yeah, it definitely started killing my soul.
Yeah. So do you feel like people know what medical astrology is? How do you explain that to people when they ask
Most
you
people,
about it?
yeah, most people have never heard of it. When I tell them I do medical astrology, they're like, that's a real branch of astrology. And I was like, yes. And it came around in like the early 1600s, really into practice then. It had been being like developed behind the scenes, but it really came into focus and practice around the 1500s, 1600s in Europe mainly at first, and it was developed from so many different systems of astrology. So it does incorporate a little bit of Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, and then like the Arabic form of astrology as well, and as well as just like Western astrology in general. And it follows the traditional astrology path, so it only really looks at the first 7 planets. The outer 3 aren't really considered in like medical astrology when looking at like the physical body. I use them when looking at like the spiritual or the emotional body because I find that they really do affect that. But a lot of true traditional medical astrologers won't touch the outer 3 planets at all. So it's been around and it was used actually all the way up until about the 1950s, even in the US. And then pharmaceutical drugs started coming out and they started really pushing those. And so anybody who was using medical astrology was looked at like they were crazy. But initially in medical schools, they were required to take it. And if you didn't use medical astrology in your practice, you were the quack. Now, if you use it, you're the quack. So it's kind of changed because they really demonized holistic medicine because it doesn't fit their agenda, what they want. They want us to pay them lots of money for things that we could fix on our own if we really knew how to do that. And they don't want us having that knowledge as much anymore. So it's really fallen out of practice here in the US especially. And so a lot of people don't know what it is. They have never heard of it. So the easiest way to explain it is that each planet influences the body in a certain specific way. Each sign of the zodiac governs a specific system or area of the body. So whatever sign that planet is in your chart, that's where that planet's influence is being exerted in your body the most. So if you have, like me, a stellium, where you have 3 or more planets in one sign, you have all those conflicting energies and influences in that one specific body area, and this can lead to a lot of disruption in your body because there's so much conflicting things coming in at once. So we start with like Aries. Aries rules the head, and we work our way down till we get to Pisces, which rules the feet. And there's a bunch of like other things in between there. And then all of them co-rule a major body system with their sister sign. So like Aries co-rules the acid alkaline balance of the body with the sister sign Libra, who rules the actual balances of the body as well. So they kind of work together in tangent with their sister signs as well. So then each planet, when you find wherever it's located in a chart, interacts their influence on that body system. So like in my case, I have the sun, moon, Mercury, Saturn, and Pluto all in Scorpio. So I have that suppressive, constricting energy from Saturn. I have the warming, very hot energy from the sun, right? I have the cooling, moistening energy from the moon. I have Mercury, which is a very neutral influence. He doesn't have any influence of his own in a chart. He actually helps balance the others. So he's actually a little helpful there in my chart. And then I have Pluto, which is kind of an ambiguous energy in some ways, but it really does bring transformation to that area of the body in some way, shape, or form. And this can be, through all kinds of processes. So I have that energy acting on everything else too. So it can be a little crazy there for me. And this can be for many other people too, depending on what planets they have where. And so ultimately, what we're looking for is if the planets are debilitated, meaning that they are in a conjunction, a square, or an opposition with another planet. And if they are, then that can be a hard aspect that can influence those energies even more. So I really look for that. And we look to see which body systems the malefics are in. The malefics are Saturn and Mars. Saturn is the very cold, restrictive, constricting energy, and it leads to a lot of chronic health issues, things that crop up later in life that have been brewing under the surface and we haven't seen. And then Mars is its antithesis, which is very hot, drying, and flaming. In medical astrology, it's actually hotter than the sun. So it brings a lot of heat to an area, a lot of inflammation. It's the seat of acute issues. So if you have an acute health issue, we typically look at Mars, see its placement, and see what transitory planets were coming around at the time that might have activated this. Especially if you have like Mars in a planet and then like you have Mars in the current transits transiting it, it can definitely like act up and make something come to light that maybe was a little hidden. And so we kind of look there first and kind of go from there. And then, like I said, each planet rules a certain types of plants and things like that. And so then to balance this all out, we know which herbs to use based on which planets balance the other ones. So like Venus balances Mars, Moon balances Sun, Saturn balances Jupiter, and then Mercury balances them all. So you can always use a mercurial plant to balance anybody's planets out and the influences. So that's like a very brief overview of what medical astrology is. And how I use it. And there's a lot of nuances. There is also each planet governs a certain like nutrition and stuff, like vitamins and minerals and things. And so that also plays a part in it and where we look, because it can lead to deficiencies in the body, and your body may need more of something or less of something than other people. And that can show that as well.
Yeah, that is so fascinating to me. And I have been studying just general Western astrology on and off for about 20 years. And I'm just now to the point where I can look at a natal chart and kind of break it down. And even that, just the general astrology breakdown, it's so layered. There's so many different aspects to it. So I can imagine when you start getting super specific with things, there's even more and more layers to it, which is really cool. It's interesting you were talking about Mars and Saturn. So my Mars and my Saturn are both in the 6th house Sagittarius for me, and Uranus is in there as well. I know the 6th house is kind of like daily activities, everyday life, work-life balance sort of stuff. I definitely can make connections with what you were talking about, Mars and Saturn being and like that being in that house and that sign for me. So do you normally have people when they come to you for services, do they already have a knowledge of astrology or they're already kind of into that sort of stuff? Or do you have people come to you that are just cold turkey, don't know anything, and you have to explain a little bit to them?
Some people, I've had actual astrologers come and work with me, so they know the planets and everything really well, but they know it from like what we consider the typical astrology, way of doing things. And then I've had others that come that don't know anything about astrology at all, have never studied it, don't know. I just literally, unless they tell me that they're like, oh, I have knowledge of astrology, I treat every reading like the person has no knowledge whatsoever of any of this. And to kind of break the concepts down to like really easy to understand concepts and really like layman's terms. I try not to use too much of like the astrology terms with people because they don't always know what those mean. I have a nice mix. Usually I'd say I do get a lot of astrologers coming who this is not their area of expertise and they're having health issues and they're like, hey, this is a thing I'd like to have you do because I want to know if this is even a real thing. I do get a lot of that. I get a lot of people that are really skeptical, but I will say that I can't vouch for any other medical astrologer, but my readings are very accurate and they're very powerful. I do combine like my intuition with them too. Like it's not just, I know X means Y from the astrology point. I will tap into their energy and what they really need from this reading, what their body really wants. I actually had one woman that got a reading from me. She was having some fertility issues and she was looking for like what she could do to help with those. And I gave her the whole reading and I usually record them and send them out because my readings are very long and in depth. And people can then pause and take notes. So I sent that over and like a couple of days later, she sends me back a message saying, I wish I would have found you years ago because I just paid thousands of dollars on blood tests for you to tell me the exact same stuff without ever invading my body. She's like, I don't know how you do it. I think it's voodoo magic, but just so you know, that was great. So that's kind of how a lot of my readings go. People are like, oh my God, this is amazing.
I would assume too, because you have all the different certifications and continuing education that you have, it all kind of plays together. You have the medical astrology, but you also can talk about nutrition and you can talk about herbs as well. So it's not just you're giving them the lowdown of what it is in their chart. You're actually giving them suggestions and you actually make different tonics and elixirs as well, correct?
I do. Yeah, I have a separate business called Eir's Elixirs where I make spagyric essences specifically. These are actually formulations that are designed to go with the zodiac in the medical astrology. They were actually developed around the same time. They're an alchemical preparation of herbs. And so they are a vibrational remedy, which means they work on the energetic body more so than the physical body. So they help heal from the inside out using safer methods in a lot of times because some herbs can be very dangerous for people to consume in large quantities or even at all, depending on what they're doing. And this takes a lot of that out because it turns it into a vibrational remedy. It's more just the essence of the plant is in there and less of like the actual plant is in there. So they're safe for pretty much anybody to take and they work in a deeper level. So they create a lot of transformation. So I do that mainly, but then I also make regular tinctures and creams and balms as well. Herbal tea blends. Some people prefer the tea blends, and so I will do that over a tincture or an essence, but it all goes together very well.
I love that. So one of the many interesting things that we talked about before we started recording is because you don't have an actual brick and mortar store, you do most of your things online, correct?
Yes.
Because she is nomadic. So she's living the nomad lifestyle. Could you talk about that a little bit? I find that really interesting. And I did mention that I have a lot of planets in Sagittarius. And I have a stellium in my ninth house as well. So that's like, oh my gosh, that sounds fantastic.
Yes, I actually have a stellium in Sagittarius as well. And so does my husband. So when we got together, it's like it cracked some code and we just decided we were going to take off. We retired the rat race and living that way where we never saw each other or the kids because we were constantly either at work or fighting traffic to get back from work. And it was just miserable and we hated it. And so, yeah, we hit the road in 2019. We sold pretty much everything we owned and bought an RV and hit the road. And we were in that RV for about a year before we realized it just wasn't right for our family. So we downsized to a smaller RV and we traveled in that one for a few years until our tow vehicle got in a wreck and then was totaled. And of course, that happened during COVID time where trucks were like absolutely through the roof. And so we couldn't afford to buy a new one. So we downsized to a van and we were in a van for 2.5 years. And from there, we actually last year in 2025, we ditched the van and upgraded to a school bus that's 36 feet. And we built it out ourselves in about 6 weeks while battling snow and winter weather because we were up in Indiana area at the time for some contract work that we had taken on. And so my poor husband was out in like 30-degree weather with all this wind chill factor out here building the bus out, which had no heat because, we were fixing it. So he was freezing to death, but we got it all done in about 6 weeks and then hit the road with it to get to family's house where we finished building it out and painting it and all that stuff because it's illegal to drive it with the school bus colors when you're no longer a school bus. So we painted it and did all this stuff. And we've been in that now since April of 2025. We absolutely love it. It's completely custom. So we travel all over the place. We usually winter in Arizona area, somewhere in there, because it's warmer and I don't do snow or cold weather very well anymore. So we stay there. And then during the summer, we usually pick up some like contract work or some gig work and like, basically seasonal type jobs. And so that's kind of what we're doing now. This summer, we're up in the Colorado area and we are managing and running a campground for the summer. So we've been having a lot of fun doing that. And then when this is done, we'll go on somewhere else until it's cool enough to go back down to Arizona because we don't do 120-degree weather either. But we've been doing this now for this long. 2 of our kids are adults now and they live on their own. One is currently building out a van because she wants to come travel with us again, but on her own this time. And then we have 2 teenagers that travel with us, one full-time and one part-time. But currently we are child free because they're all off visiting other family members for the summer.
What has been the biggest challenge of living that lifestyle? I definitely feel like it feeds your soul in a way that the other living stationary and the whole 9 to 5, the rat race, going back and forth to work and things like that is just stressful. So do you feel like there's been a lot of challenges that come with it that you ever think you would go back to that way, or you're just like, this is it. This is this is how I'm living now.
This is the life that we want. We actually, when we were in Indiana building out the bus, because it was winter and staying in the van wasn't really the easiest thing to do when it's that cold outside, we actually rented a house. So we lived in a house for about 3 or 4 months while we were buying the bus, trying to find one and then building it out. So we were there for probably 3 or 4 months, somewhere in there. And by the end of it, we hated it. We were so ready to leave. We had never been so happy to leave a house. It felt way too big. We felt separated, like we're used to our family being close together and doing things. And everything was like so far apart. We found that we've spent all of our time in the living room together, unless we were eating, then we were in the kitchen together because we're just so used to doing everything together anymore. We really like that. That's a really good part for us of this lifestyle is the fact that we do everything together. We also spend a ton of time in nature. People are like, oh my God, how do you stay in the bus all the time? Well, we don't. We travel to places where you can get outside in nature more frequently than we could when we lived on the east side of the country, which is where we started our journey from. And so we are outside a lot. We're hiking, we're biking, we're kayaking, we're doing something. We have the dog who's going somewhere with us, and she's very adventurous now. She's our little adventure doggy. And so we're not just all the time in here. The hardest part of the whole thing is when the weather's bad and you can't go outside because it's like raining or snowing or something. So that can get a little frustrating sometimes if it continues on for a while. Personally, my husband and I are legit soulmates, so we get along really well. And so we didn't mind the small spaces and being close together and right on top of each other. But we have a lot of friends that we've met on the road who didn't have such an easy transition of being so close to their spouse all the time. And if you get upset with each other, there's really nowhere to go because you're in a 40-foot home. So that was hard for a lot of our friends. We didn't really find it that hard. We found it actually brought us closer together because it forced us to work through any issues we had because you can't get away from the problem and just run from it. Obviously, it would take space if we need it. One of us will go outside or one will stay in or we'll both go outside. But we have found that it forces us to confront those issues quicker and things don't fester. So our relationship is a lot stronger. If you know anything about human design, I'm also a reflector in human design. And so their environments are really, really important for them. So changing environments all the time actually really helps my business and me because I'm not in the same place. And if the environment starts feeling icky to me or really bringing me down, we just move to a new place. My husband really trusts my intuition. So we go park somewhere and I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling this place. There's a weird vibe. We'll just pack right back up and drive somewhere else for the night. So it's really been good that way. For me personally, I need that like change and stuff. I will say my youngest daughter that travels with us all the time, she's a Taurus sun and she is a Virgo rising, and that child loves consistency and She's a homebody. Like, trying to get this kid to leave the house is impossible. We have to like literally bribe her with food. We're going out and getting food. Let's go. So then she'll go, right? But like otherwise she just wants to be here. I have asked her over the years, like, do you really like this way of living? Because we're happy to go be miserable if she needs something else, right? Like if we're not happy, that's fine. Let's make sure she's happy and having the childhood she wants. And she loves it. She's like, no, I love it because my house just comes with me. Like I can go places and travel without having to like pack anything up or be away from the house. She's like, the house just comes to. And I think it helps that she has a lot of friends that live this way too, that are all the same age as her, and most of them have also grown up on the road. So this is like their norm, and they just all hang out together. When we get down to Arizona, it's like one big teen party at the house all the time. We have so many teens that are constantly at our bus or one of the other buses near us and hanging out and they've all grown up this way and they love it. And so I think having friends that have also done this helps. But the hardest part was the kids initially, just because we weren't sure how they would take to it. So before we did it, we did talk to them about it. And they were all like gung-ho, yeah, let's try it. If we get to see you guys more, like, hell yeah, let's go. So we did it, and every year we reevaluate if they want to come off the road or not, or maybe go to, like a regular school again. Our daughter doesn't. Every time I ask her, she's like, no, please don't send me back to school. I love this, because she does an online schooling program and she loves it. And there is interaction with other kids and stuff. So she has like a whole network in there too, as well as her friends in real life. So I think overall there's more pros than cons for us personally, but it's definitely not the life for everybody. You have to be adventurous, you have to be flexible, you have to know that problems are going to come up and be able to problem solve without panicking or freaking out all the time. And you need to be a strong team with your spouse. And if you're not, then your relationship will crumble and everything else will too, because that's the base for the whole thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. As you're describing it, though, it just makes me feel humans in general, thousands of years ago, that's just how we lived and we survived. And that was like the norm. You're giving your nervous system something that not many people get a chance to have access to in the society. So I love that you're doing that. And also, as you were talking about kids, I was thinking, and I do this with my kids, I've looked at all of my kids' charts, and it really helps me to kind of understand and support them in different ways and figure out why we're having trouble with this or to help support you through this. So I'm sure too, like having that astrology background, that has kind of helped you lean into parenting more effectively.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a 100% a cheat sheet for parenting. In fact, it actually changed my whole parenting relationship with my kids when I got into astrology and I looked up their charts and I realized why each kid was so different, and it allowed us to give them what they needed emotionally first, because that's based on like where their moon sign is. Like my youngest daughter, for example, when she was younger, she was always, I mean, she cried at the drop of a hat. Everything upset her. She was like, if you even raised your voice like an octave, like you barely went up, she was like, why are you screaming at me? And was immediately upset. And I'm like, why is this kid so sensitive all the time? Like we're literally just talking normally and she's upset. Like it was driving me crazy. And then when I got into astrology, I got her chart. She has a Pisces moon. She's very sensitive. She's supposed to be. She's very open. She feels energies. So she will feel the energy and know that something's off, even if our voices haven't changed, which is what was upsetting to her. And so once I knew that, I was like, okay, we have to approach how we parent her differently than we do my oldest daughter, who has an Aries moon. That child likes to fight everything. You, society, other people. If she gets upset and emotional, her first response is to fight back, physically, emotionally, mentally, with words. Like she just wants to fight everything. And so when she would get upset, we had to work on finding ways to get her to calm down and be able to express verbally in an appropriate way how she was feeling without wanting to go punch somebody or something, right? We actually got her into roller derby, and that helped so much. She would go to roller derby practice and she would come back fine. Like she'd go upset and she'd come back happy because she needed a physical outlet for her energy. Whereas my youngest daughter needs more of an emotional release. She needs quiet. She needs calm. She needs time alone. She needs to get away from people. She needs water. Like just going and sit in the shower for a few minutes helps because it rinses all this stuff and it takes all of the stuff away. But my oldest daughter, she needed to go beat something up. So roller derby it was, right? So it really, really helped to figure out that. And parenting them has been so much easier since.
I have Pisces stellium. I have 4 planets in Pisces, 3 planets in Sagittarius, and my kids are all Leos, all 3 of them, Leo suns.
It's a lot, I'm sure, for you.
It's been interesting.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the energy of my oldest and my youngest is so similar, they're both Scorpio risings as well.
That
And my
explains it.
youngest has his Mars in his first house. And man, he is like, after I started kind of breaking down everything, going, oh, this makes so much sense
Mhm.
why he struggles so much. Like they're all just such big feelers.
They are, yeah.
Yeah. And especially the Scorpio rising ones, it's just
Yeah.
it's so
My
funny.
Aries moon daughter has a Scorpio rising too. So she feels everything really intensely, and then she has the Aries moon that wants to express it physically, so it's a
Mhm.
great combination.
Yeah. She's gotta get lots of stuff done in life.
Oh, yeah.
That's kinda how I feel.
I
Like,
feel for my poor sister. I have 2 sisters, both are earth signs, and they're both Tauruses, which is really funny because I'm a Scorpio, so we're sister signs on top of being true sisters.
actual
So
sisters.
it's been fun that way because we actually get along really great. We're all like besties, right? Because we all get along really well. But they're both earth signs. My one sister has 3 boys, and every single one of them is a fire sign. 2 are Sagittarius and 1 is an Aries. And
Oh my god.
let me tell you that my poor sister is overwhelmed with boys that are already normal boys, right? With lots of energy and all the stuff that young boys tend to have. And then they're all fire signs. So they feel everything really intensely and they express it all physically. So it's been a lot of fun. She's gotten most of them that are old enough now into like martial arts, and that has helped so much. But her Aries child, let me tell you, seeing kids when they're that little and they haven't been conditioned by society yet to express themselves in different ways or mask or hide who they are. And he is just the true expression of an Aries sun. And I don't know what his rest of his chart is, but he feels everything really intensely. So a Pisces or a Scorpio rising would make sense, but I haven't looked at his chart. But this kid, every time he gets hurt, it's always a head injury or it's a really high fever, which are 2 Aries traits. Anybody with good Aries in their charts almost always has some kind of head injury that they've had in their life at least once, possibly more. Concussions are a huge thing there. Head injuries where they're like cut open and bleeding. Every time they fall, they hit their head. Like it never fails. And then they always tend to really high fevers when they get sick. They spike really, really high, really, really fast, and then they'll drop just as fast later. But it's their body's immune system is just on overdrive when it comes to like being sick. They don't stay sick for long because their body burns everything out, right? But he's wound up in the ER several times because he spiked up to like 107 and not come back down, you know? So my poor sister is definitely under a lot with them for fire signs and her being an earth sign because she's so grounded and they're all over the place.
Yeah, understanding parts of my chart has been really helpful in helping me lean into like what feels purposeful and what feels
Hmm.
right. I know when I started getting into astrology, I was more like just sun sign and kind of dabbling in it. But I would read certain things like you probably would have your own business and I'm like I could never do that. And then when I actually leaned into it, I was all like, "Oh, I'm never going back." Like what the heck?
All right, so got your chart open in front of me. So you had mentioned earlier you have your Saturn and Mars in the 6th house. So in medical astrology, the 6th house is the house of health. So it really can show like how your overall health might be throughout life based on what is in there, if any planets are. Some people have no planets in there. It's just whatever sign is governing it. And so that has a completely different outcome. And then we also look at the 1st house and the 6th house together because that shows like your overall constitution and how your body is designed to be. And by that, I mean the Hermetic principles. So it's like hot and dry, cold and moist, damp and cold, damp and hot, things like that. And so it kind of shows how your body overall will react and what things you might actually need if you're really running hot, how to keep yourself cooler on the inside. Because internal heat can lead to a lot of issues. From a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, trapped heat, internal heat tends to sit in the liver, and that can lead to liver health problems down the line. And so we would want to work on like liver health if that was you. In this case, you have a Cancer rising and a Sagittarius 6th house. So you have a pretty good balance of like water and fire there. You have no planets in the 1st house, so that helps a little bit because you don't have any other influences coming in. It's just that Cancer influence. Cancer's ruled by the moon, so it's a very cooling, moistening sign. It rules the stomach and digestion. With that being your 1st house, digestion issues are probably a thing that has plagued you throughout your life, especially with dairy products. Lactose intolerance is huge here for Cancer risings. And unfortunately, they love dairy. Like Cancer risings are like dairy fiends and dairy hates them a lot of
We like
times.
our comfort food.
Yes.
We're emotional eaters.
Yes. And unfortunately, Because you're a Cancer rising, emotions, like you just mentioned, really affect your digestion as well. So you should really only eat when you're in a good mood. If you're sad, mad, angry, pissed off, whatever, eating is not the thing you should be doing at that time because it affects your digestion and you won't actually digest things well or at all. It'll just sit in your stomach. So making sure you're in a good space mentally and emotionally before you eat is always a good thing here. Especially with you have Neptune in Capricorn, that's directly in opposition of that. Neptune is the great dissolver in medical astrology, so it dissolves minerals and things like that. And in that Capricorn placement, it dissolves the Capricorn minerals, which is ruled by Saturn normally, so that's calcium, that is vitamin C, vitamin K, PABA, fluorine, sulfur. Those are all ruled by Saturn. And so because of that, you're going to need a lot more of those things in your life, which is why you like dairy so much, right? Because calcium is found in high quantities in dairy usually. With Capricorn being your sister sign, Cancers love dairy. Unfortunately, like I said, dairy doesn't always love you back, but you do need vitamin C, vitamin K, and calcium at the very minimum in higher quantities than other people with that Neptune placement there. Moving back to your 6th house, you have Mars and Saturn there, and they are conjunct each other with Uranus. Now, Uranus is the great electric planet in medical astrology, so it rules the electrical system, which Aquarius rules as well, which is why it rules Aquarius, and Aquarius rules the salt intake of the body. And so with that placement there and Mars and Saturn right next to it, your body probably needs a lot more sodium and salt than other people's because it's being used quickly with those other influences there. So a higher sodium diet for you personally would not necessarily be a bad thing. And then Mars in Sagittarius. Sagittarius rules the central nervous system with the sister sign Gemini, and it also rules the hip and thigh area specifically, and also has a lot of governance over the sciatic nerve. So a lot of sciatic nerve issues are found here with Mars there because of that inflammation that it tends to. So the best way to treat that is make sure you're getting plenty of B vitamins because they calm the nervous system, as well as magnesium. Sagittarius is prone to not have enough magnesium in their life and need more. So magnesium glycinate is actually a really good one because it calms the nervous system. And it also helps calm that overactive nervous system that you get when you have Mars in Sagittarius. But with Saturn there, it does suppress that a little because it's suppressive energy, so it will bring some of that down. So it may not be as bad as like someone who has only Mars there, right? So yours might be intermittent instead of like constant. And then Saturn suppresses the nervous system and suppresses all that stuff. So it kind of is balancing that Mars influence out, but then at the same time, it brings a lot of coldness to there. So combined with the coldness of Saturn, and it's below the horizon, so it's even colder, but it isn't a fire sign, so that's warmed it up a little bit. But with your first house in Cancer, your body probably tends to a lot of cold internally instead of heat, as we would like it to be a little hotter. We don't want it to be over hot, right? But we don't want it to be too cold either. There's a nice balance. So making sure you're getting plenty of water. Cancers need tons of water when they have a Cancer rising, especially to help with their digestion. They need to be drinking while eating. So a lot of water. Electrolytes are going to be really good here for you as well. And then with that Pisces sun, I love Pisces suns because they are just such awesome people. They are very intuitive. A lot of times they pick up on things before anybody else. They will know to call you out of the blue because they just felt that something was off with you. And they're always right. Like they will call you right when you need somebody to talk to, but you haven't reached out yet. And so they're amazing friends, amazing people, but you're right about needing your own job because with that stellium there, you are even more sensitive than like say a normal Pisces would be. So you pick up on so many others' energies that being in like an office setting with so many people around you that are constantly having all their own emotions coming up and energies will literally like drain you quickly. You will go to work and you will like barely make it home. You will have to constantly doing tons of energy work to keep up a shield to keep that stuff out, which drains you even more. So it's really good that you probably do have your own business because you actually, that can make a Pisces super sick. They tend toward a lot of autoimmune disorders when they work in places that are not good for them. As soon as they leave a toxic environment that's like toxic for them, not necessarily what we would consider a true toxic environment, but like it's toxic for their bodies, their autoimmune issues will go away or they'll be so reduced that they're like in remission now. So it's really good that you figured that out and you work probably by yourself. That's probably a really good thing. Pisces, you have Venus and Mercury and Jupiter there too. So Jupiter expands things. It's the opposite of Saturn, right? Saturn constricts everything and Jupiter expands it. So it's bringing a lot of energy to the Pisces ruled areas, which is the psyche, the feet, and it co-rules the immune system with the sister sign Virgo. It tends to be more the sluggish side of the immune system over Virgo being the overactive side. So learning to balance those two is, really imperative here when you have that much of a stellium. So again, just good nutrition is going to be really awesome here for you. Your body definitely needs, you to not eat a lot of junk food. If you eat too much, you will notice because your health will decline fairly rapidly, usually with this many placements. And then with Jupiter there, as well as the sun and Venus and Mercury, your intuition is probably off the charts. So use that when deciding what to eat. Your intuition won't steer you wrong on knowing what to eat. And eating ethically sourced foods are going to be best for you because Pisces picks up on the energetics of what they're eating as well. And that can make you sick also if, say, you're eating some kind of like beef and the animal wasn't treated well prior to turning into this meat that you're eating, you will pick up on that energy and that will make you sick. Just listen to that intuition when you're eating. If something doesn't feel right, then you shouldn't eat it, even if it makes no sense to you or anybody else. If you're sitting there going, I have no idea why I don't want to eat this, just listen to that and find something else. As weird as that may sound, it actually is really true. I find with my Pisces clients, if they listen to that intuition and just follow whatever diet sounds good for them and eat whatever, as long as it feels good intuitively and energetically, that they stay super healthy. And as soon as they don't listen to that, they get sick.
That completely called out so many things. And some of the things I knew, but some of the things you pointed out, you definitely went a little bit more in depth. Like, these are the types of vitamins you need. I intuitively have known that I need to intuitively eat. I have started using muscle testing when it comes to food. Like, should I have fish? Should I have salad? Should I have blah, blah, blah? But I'm not super consistent with it. A lot of times, too, with that stellium and Sagittarius, I'm kind of like all over the place. I do have kind of that ADHD brain a little bit. So
ADHD
it's
is super
difficult
common in Sagittarius placements.
Yeah. Well, it's difficult to create consistency when it comes to eating. Like, my eating habits are typically I don't get hungry until about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And then by the time I realize I'm hungry, I end up overeating or I'm eating the wrong thing. I'm aware that I need to change my eating habits, that I need to be a little bit more mindful, but it's difficult to do. It's difficult to make it a habit and be consistent with it.
No, for sure. And it is for pretty much everybody I've ever really talked to, but certain placements for sure struggle more. So when we're looking at like your astronutrition, we look at the first house, the second house, the fifth house, the sixth house, the eighth house, and the 10th house, really on how things are going to work. Because the first house, like I said, is really like what kind of food you're really going to like the most. Second house is your tastes and how they're either fixed, not fixed, or you need more creativity or whatever, right? The fifth house is how creatively or not creatively you need your food to be prepared. And the sixth house is how well you're going to digest the food, because that's usually ruled by Virgo, which rules digestion of like the first part of digestion, the small intestine. Then the eighth house is the house of elimination, because that's where Scorpio normally rules, and it rules the latter half of digestion where we're eliminating things. So how well you're going to eliminate things. And then the 10th house is what you can do in your life and how creative you can be, how your career can go as if you've nourished your body in an appropriate way. So with your first house in Cancer, again, dairy is going to be a huge thing here for you, where you're going to love dairy. It may not love you back. Desserts are a big thing here. A lot of Cancer risings have a huge sweet tooth. Not sure why, but they struggle with that a lot, of wanting sweets all the time. With Leo on your second house, your tastes are kind of fixed because that's a fixed fire sign, but they're also a little more eclectic in some ways. Like, you need your food to be fun and exciting to you. But it can be the same foods all the time. It just needs to be fixed in like a fun, exciting way. With Scorpio in your fifth house, where Leo normally rules of creativity, it's also a fixed sign, but a fixed water sign. So it does like creativity, but again, it actually prefers intuitive meals, because again, Scorpio is a very intuitive water sign. And so it really would prefer that you fix your meals intuitively every day. It is Saturn there too, but Sagittarius in the sixth house shows that your digestion is very finicky and it's all over the map because it's that mutable fire energy. So again, the reason that you may not get hungry is because your digestion hasn't caught up with like last night's foods yet, so you're not hungry until the afternoon. And again, that could be that finicky digestion. So sometimes you'll be starving in the morning, other days you're not hungry till the afternoon. And then with the eighth house, you have that in Aquarius. So again, for your digestion and everything to work well and be eliminated right, you need plenty of salt in your life. And then Aries is in your 10th house. Aries really likes to initiate things and start things, but doesn't always like to finish things. So it's good to give you lots of that creative energy you need. And then you need to hire yourself like a Virgo or a Taurus to like help you push things through, or be like, the consistency that you need, even if they don't work in the same place as you, but like you have someone who is that more consistent person that can help you like achieve things and finish it. But you'll be really great at your job and coming up with ideas and everything as long as your body is nourished well. And you can tell when it's not, because you'll start feeling like, I haven't come up with a good idea or a new idea or anything creative in my business in like months. And this can be a sign that your body just needs better nourishment for it. So it all works together. But again, with that 6th house in Sagittarius, you're going to struggle a little bit because it's all over the map with what it likes that day, what it doesn't like, when it wants to eat, when it doesn't want to eat. I have found for some people with this placement, setting a timer or alarm on your phone that goes off at like certain times, and you, as soon as it goes off, you get up and go eat. That can help with some consistency, but everybody's different. So you just got to figure out what works for you, right? No shame. This is how you're designed, and you just got to learn to work with it.
Yeah. And that, I think a lot of people too, and you probably notice this with people that come in or your clients that come in, we do try to mold ourselves to what is normal or what it's, those 3 meals a day and 2 snacks. And this is what your eating habits need to look like. This is what you need to be healthy, the whole like diet culture. And yeah, I think for people that do have it in their charts where it's all over the place, I know for me, like every time I try to do a diet, I fail miserably because I'm trying to fit everything into a box and do all the checklists. And intuitively I knew this, but you just confirmed it, that that's just not how my body works. That's not what it needs. So I feel like just in you doing this brief little thing for me, that gives me so much confirmation and makes me kind of excited to start leaning more into my intuition. And it makes me feel a bit more motivated to do it instead of just kind of brushing it off. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And just follow that, because honestly, it won't steer you wrong. And with Pisces' sister sign being Virgo, Virgo is like the nutritionist of the zodiac. I see so many Virgo placements that have like either a lot of Virgo or a Virgo sun, moon, or rising, one of their top 3 being Virgo placements, that end up being chefs or nutritionists or dietitians because they are totally into nourishing their body. They are the other side of Pisces, so they're a little militant about it and a little too perfectionistic, whereas Pisces is a little too lax. So you got to learn how to balance those two out together and not be militant, because it's not going to work well for your body, but you can't be too lax either, because then you're not nourishing your body at all, because like you said, I haven't eaten until 4 o'clock this afternoon, right? So there's got to be like a middle ground, and it just takes time to find that. And eating intuitively for you will probably be the best way to find that, because your body will naturally fall into a rhythm once you get into that intuitive way of doing things.
Yeah, I love that. So for people that are interested in getting a reading with you, I just listening to that and I'm like, I want more now. I want to know about all these things. So yeah, let us know how people can get a hold of you and book with you if they're curious.
Yeah, so I offer several different one-off readings. So there's the Astro Nutrition reading, which is kind of what I just did here. We're just going into like the nutrition part of things for her. So I have those. I have intuitive readings where you don't tell me a thing that you want to look at. I just go open your chart and go where spirit leads. And those always end up being really cool, because people are like, oh my God, how'd you know this? I didn't even tell you that. So those ones are kind of fun to do for me. And then I have like the general medical astrology readings where we just hit everything, the nutrition, the physical, the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, all this stuff. So those are my really more in-depth ones as well. So I offer those. And then I have one-to-one work with me as well, with a minimum of 3 months that we work together. And that includes a reading. It also includes some intuitive healing sessions throughout the time that we work together, where we kind of dive into your body intuitively and see what it really wants first, or what it wants to start with, or whatever pops up. I've had the weirdest things pop up. I did one the other day with a client, and literally the first thing that popped into my mind as soon as I tapped in the energy was it went straight to her liver, and it showed these little tiny spirit beings pulling pills out of her liver and throwing them out of her body. And so I said to her, are you on some kind of medications that your body's not liking? Because that's what they're showing me. And she's like, oh my God, I've been thinking about stopping this medication because it's bothering me. And I was like, well, your body is saying that it wants you to stop it because it's literally throwing the pills out of your body. She's like, okay. So weird things happen. So those you can buy one off as well, like just do a session. And then when we work intuitively together for those 3 months, and we can do 6 or 12 months or whatever as well. So that is all found on my website. It is atlaastrology.com/everything, and that'll get you everything that I have right now and currently available on my site. And then I also have Eir's Elixirs, which is eirselixirs.com, EIRS elixirs.com. And that's where you can get my spagyric essences, tea blends, all that stuff. And if we work together, those are also things that get sent to you that you can purchase, or we can work together on like a package kind of deal. So those are the main things that I'm currently offering. I also have a few courses. I have my Astro Aligned Kitchen, which helps you set up your kitchen to be exactly what it is that your body needs to eat and how to work with it specifically. So it really helps you figure out which foods are best for you, and which foods to keep stocked in your kitchen, because I don't know about you, but if I don't have it in my kitchen, I'm not going to eat it. And I'm not going back to the store to go get it because I've been there already and that's enough. I hate grocery shopping. I hate shopping of any kind. But that really helps you get your kitchen set up and exactly what your body needs, keep things in stock. And then I have my Happy Healthy Hormones via the Cosmos, which is a really good starter to get you into how to manage your hormone health as a woman, specifically using your natal chart to do so.
Yeah, all that's amazing. I love it. I'm definitely gonna be checking some of that out. So yeah, if you're interested and you're listening, definitely check out her websites. I'll post all your social media stuff in the show notes as well. So thank you so much for coming on here. This has been fantastic. And anything astrology, I get totally geeked out about. So I love that we were able to kind of like go back and forth and talk about some of that. So thank you so much for being on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to Transformative Talks. Be sure to follow along on your favorite podcast platform and connect with us on social media so you never miss a new episode. A quick reminder that this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended to replace medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you're a holistic practitioner, wellness professional, or someone with a healing journey you feel called to share, I'd love to hear from you. Visit our website, listed below in the show notes, to learn more and to connect. Until next time, keep growing, keep exploring, and keep embracing your own transformative journey.